Hello. Good evening. We are on. Hi, Ashley, James, Leah, Stephen. Thank you for joining us. If you wouldn't mind, could you just, one of you, just all of you, just comment in the chat, just so that I know you can hear me. That would be amazing. And Marcus, here he is. Just double check that my sound is working. Thank you, Ashley. Cool. All good with the sound. Okay, great. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. We will we'll do a bit of filling for the first few minutes until we've got a few more people joining us. I think we've got about 50 signed on for this evening, which is great. And it tells me that people are starting to look towards sort of September with regard to PE provision, coaching companies that you may be having currently. I know there are a few coaching companies on the webinar as well, so hopefully we can help you guys in terms of how we operate here in Somerset, and there might be some takeaways from you that will help you moving forward into the next academic year. The majority seems like school-based staff, PE coordinators, I assume. So yeah, if you want to drop in the chat who you are, where you're from, what school you're from, if you're a PE leader, that would be fantastic, just so we know who you are and what kind of areas that we're talking to. That would be brilliant. And yeah, this evening is just about our experiences really as a coaching company. We'll give a bit of information about who we are, where we've come from, and what we've done over the past 7 years that we've been operating as a coaching company, and what we were doing prior to that, and also on relatively new company which started 3 years ago, Inspired Schools. To give a bit of background into that also. So yeah, great to see so many people booked on for this evening, and like I said, just really highlights, I guess, where we are at the moment with in society, with the struggles that everybody's going through. Some children from less fortunate backgrounds who perhaps haven't been able to get out of the house too much, or been taken out to do much regular exercise on a daily basis. We'll touch on this later in the webinar, but in my view, it's a crucial time for everybody really, for school staff, for coaching companies, certainly us trying to get children more active in primary schools, which again we'll touch on in the webinar. But if we can hopefully help you to have the best possible PE provision in your school, we'll give you some ideas, not just on coaching companies, but some things you could potentially implement straight away, whether that's learning breaks or whether that is socially distanced PE. We'll give you some ideas on that, and we'll again mention this later in the webinar, but happy to talk in further depth with anybody that has any further questions and would like a strategy call off the back of this. Marcus is my business partner who's joining us this evening. I'll let you fill for a minute, Marcus, while I share the screen and we can get started.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everybody. Guys, if there are any questions as we go through, I will try and answer them as we go through. Obviously, there'll be a period of time at the end where there will be a slot to ask questions as well. But as we go, I will try and kind of answer any questions, query, anything you might have that Ben may be going through. I'll try and kind of fill you in on our kind of opinions and our takes, and anything we can support you with as well. So yeah, I will try and keep up with typing. So fire your questions in, and we'll do our best to answer them. But thank you for all joining us. It's obviously a really important time at the moment, and what we find that, you know, schools are really keen to get children outdoors, get children active, and any support we can give around practical ways, and also obviously experiences from our point of view with regards to recruiting coaches, and kind of trying to provide the best workforce that we possibly can over a prolonged, sustainable period of time.
Great, thanks, Marcus. You probably hear Marcus's tapping in the background as he answers those questions throughout the webinar. And what we do at the end as well is if there's any further questions that we can answer in more depth, then we'll go into that as well. So we term the webinar "Coaching Companies: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly," and it just sprung to mind when creating the webinar that in a relatively short amount of time, 7 years, not a huge amount of time, we've experienced all three of those really. We've experienced some fantastic companies who operate really professionally and offer a fantastic service to their schools and the children they operate in. We've also seen the flip side of that, where you've got a white van pop up at a side of school, and they just sort of do football sessions, and they call themselves a coaching company, and they basically try to piggyback off of London 2012 and the funding that was put into the schools at that time. So we'll go through some of the pitfalls that we've seen. We're not as brash to say that we've not made mistakes along the way. So there's things that we've sort of certainly learned in our journey, and things that we do now that we perhaps didn't do right at the start. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about this evening. Okay, so a bit about us. So myself, I'm secondary school, or was a secondary school PE teacher, working in Somerset at a school called Ridlington. And I was playing semi-professional football at the time, and the work-life sort of balance was too much. So I decided to leave the teaching profession, not because I didn't enjoy it, but as everybody who's teaching on this call will attest to, that the time pressures of teaching were intense, and I didn't want to finish my sort of failed footballing career at that point. So I came out of the secondary school that I was teaching in and started what was called Key Stage Coaching in 2013. And in total, been working in the sector for around 14 years, straight off the back of coming out of my undergraduate university degree. Marcus and I both worked for the Somerset Activity Sports Partnership, delivering into primary schools back then, so back in 2006. And yeah, noticed a huge change from that gap from 2006 to 2013. So Key Stage Coaching was founded in 2013, and we'll go through what we do a bit later, and I'll pass you over to Marcus.
Thanks, Ben. So myself, over a period of 20 years, really, seen all different areas and sides of kind of sport and PE, from, as Ben mentioned, working with the Community Sports Partnership, SASP, down here in Somerset. I was a senior development coach going into primary schools and delivering cross-curricular projects as well, right through to working in the Somerset Rural Youth Project, which was trying to raise activity levels for primarily 13 to 19-year-olds within some of the smaller villages and hamlets within Somerset. And then right the way through to working with the Football Association as a football development manager, and kind of fourfold really, trying to create better players, also raising standards within the game, but really, really importantly, kind of growing the game with regards to participation levels, but also kind of sustaining and retaining people, children, right the way through from 4-year-olds to kind of your veterans football as well. So kind of raising standards, retaining children and adults within the game, and kind of growing the game as well. And also kind of looking at facility development and funding and grant allocations as well. Thanks, Ben.
So yeah, so with our background, sort of, we teamed up, and in the space of 7 years, our coaching arm has grown from sort of 4 schools to 30 schools, excuse me, that we deliver into, and we have a coaching team of 10 coaches, which is going to expand to 12 after the summer holidays. So we've grown slowly and steadily. We've not necessarily targeted quick growth with the coaching arm. Again, we'll go into detail on this, but we've seen coaching companies that will take on an after-school club here and there. We don't take on after-school clubs as a sole entity. We try and work with schools on a minimum of 3-hour blocks, 6 hours preferably, because then we can attract and we can employ better coaches. And like I said, we've grown slowly, or slower than perhaps we would have liked, but we've maintained our reputation throughout. All of our coaches are full-time and employed by us, and we've got a brilliant reputation in Somerset, and we've kind of grown with that really. We haven't really done any marketing, it's just been word of mouth and through the high quality provision that we provide. And then just briefly, we have another company, or a product called Inspired Playgrounds, which was born 3 years ago, May half term, where we installed a playground. It's a physical activity product. Again, we'll go into detail towards the end of the webinar on this. And we've managed to scale that across the country into 61 schools across the country. So we're really proud of that achievement. And our vision behind everything we do is raising physical activity levels in primary schools. We're firm believers that physical activity has so many benefits to primary schools other than physical health. You've got mental well-being and also attainment and attendance as well. So that's a bit about us. And what we're going to go through this evening are two things really. So what does a good coaching company look like? And we will put some like a checklist out there for you to think about what you've got in place currently, or maybe you haven't got anything in place, but you're looking to incorporate some coaching, some additional coaching into your school, but you don't really know where to start. Hopefully this will help you to get some really high quality provision into your school. And then the second point, which it leads into, is what does that high quality provision look like? What options do you have other than just your standard PE lesson, your PPA cover? So we'll give some examples of what we do in Somerset, and hopefully that will help you and shape your PE provision next year. So here are the problems, and again, this is kind of your checklist. And what I'll do off the back of this webinar is I will put these slides on our website, and I'll email you all probably Friday with a link to these slides, so you can have this as a checklist. So don't worry about scribbling things down now. So I'll just quickly reel through these bullet points, and I'll hand over to Marcus if I've left anything out. So just quickly then, qualifications is a really big one. Are they qualified? And I've got a slide in a second which will help you see what UK coaching and AFP have put together, so that it's a quick checklist from them also. I don't know if you want to touch on insurance, Marcus. I know you've had experience of other companies around the area.
Yeah, and I think insurance is a really, really important one. And I know I completely understand how busy head teachers are and PE coordinators. And one thing to be wary of, and I know kind of going back a few years ago, there were a lot of coaching companies out there kind of using the FA, the Football Association, grassroots policy of an insurance. So for example, if I volunteered in my local grassroots community football club and I was FA qualified, I could apply for an insurance policy that would cover me for that. And I know that kind of going back probably 6 or 7 years ago, you know, many coaches kind of going into schools as new coaches would firmly believe that they were insured, and you know, you would get an insurance policy which, you know, head teachers would be able to view and look at. But you know, with regard to the small print of that, there was always a big difference between a coach that would be volunteering in a grassroots environment to actually being insured within a commercial company or a commercial business. So obviously the differences between the two are very, very different, and what a lot of coaches would, you know, potentially through no fault of their own really, you know, would take out an insurance company, but actually it would cover them from volunteer coaching as opposed to kind of commercial businesses. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, and just quickly, just sprung to my mind actually, when I started out going back into primary schools, when I came out of secondary, I don't mind sharing this. I can't remember, I think it was UK Coach or something like that. They offered coaching insurance, but actually when I delved further into that insurance, it only covered me to teach football. I'm a level 3 football coach as well, so is Marcus, and it only covered me for football, even though what's a degree, a PGCE level 6, I think, or whatever it is. Even though I have my PGCE, secondary school PGCE plus NQT year and years of experience in secondary school, I was only covered to teach football. So even if you're a coaching company listening to this, it's just worth double checking with your insurance provider what you're actually covered to deliver. Our insurance provider covers us for everything, every sport, based on the experience that our coaches have. They don't have to have a qualification in every activity. That would be an unrealistic expectation for them to have NGB level 2s in every single sport. But they cover us based on the experience that our coaching team has for every area of the curriculum. Okay, so moving on, and this isn't a requirement, but it's just worth thinking about that. Are the coaches that come in employed or self-employed? And there's nothing wrong with having self-employed coaches. We did that right at the start, and it worked just as well for us then as it does now with employed coaches. But it just gives us that continuity. So moving on to the next bullet point, do you have the same coach every week? Coaching companies, are you providing the same coach to your schools every week? Obviously, where possible, illness can be an issue. And again, that leads on to the next point, in that does your coaching company always provide cover if said coach is off for whatever reason? Again, we've experienced times, and we now work with schools that have fallen out with their coaching company and their relationship has been broken because they have had different coaches coming in, or they haven't been able to provide cover. And here's a big one. Again, it's not a requirement, but it's something that we certainly do here in Somerset. Are the coaches observed and providing that sort of quality assurance from your coach, your provider? And do they attend regular CPD? Are they upskilling themselves every term or every year as a minimum that we would recommend? Like you would do in the teaching profession, you're always striving and trying to improve your teaching and learning. And behaviour management, again, not a prerequisite, but what is the behaviour management like? We've had coaches work for us that have sort of come out of college and haven't had the best grasp on behaviour management right at the start. They've maybe coached small groups in their degree or their coaching qualifications at college, but then faced with 34-year-olds in September who can't change themselves and don't understand what a space is. It's a completely different ballgame to taking an 8v8 football session with an adult team. So yeah, behaviour management is a big one for us and something we work really, really hard with our coaches on. Quality of lessons links to the observations. Are they delivering from schemes of work, or are they just coming in and doing similar sessions every week? Is there progression? Is there differentiation, etc., etc.? What's the quality of the lessons like? And those observations, do you get to see those observations and what the feedback is from those coaching companies? And the big one for us, as I mentioned, our vision is around raising physical activity levels. So huge part of what we do is making sure we deliver active lessons, and we'll touch on that again later. Anything you want to add, Marcus, to that?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, I think it's really important to stress that there are fantastic coaching companies out there that will tick all of these boxes. Absolutely. You know, some of these things to put in place aren't easy for a coaching company. They are a big resource. So, for example, ensuring that every single session is covered. You know, if a coach is off sick, you know, will be a time element. It'll also be about getting the right people to be able to cover, employing the right people, but also the cost elements as well. So, you know, if a coaching company has cover right throughout the week, Monday to Friday, there is a cost element around that. So some of these things aren't easy, but there are coaching companies out there that will tick all of these boxes. I think for me as well, to add to that, and, you know, probably recruiting coaches now for the last sort of 7-8 years, probably the biggest thing that isn't on there is the motivation and the passion and of those individual coaches as well. Like for me, there's, you know, technical knowledge is massively important. Delivering great schemes of work is important. But for me, that person that really wants to make a difference and wants to work with children is massively important. So that personality of that individual coach is probably, for me, the most important thing out of the whole lot. I mean, if somebody isn't passionate about coming in to deliver PE, then I think, you know, that reflects on the experience, the direct experience those children will get. And for me, taking on any new coaches, it's a given, really. And I know that, you know, being a sports coach is great to have on a CV, and it's quite an in job with, you know, with certain coaches. But actually, the reality of delivering a session to 35-year-olds and with differing needs, you know, it's not. It can be a challenge. So, I mean, that massive passion and that want to be in that delivery capacity and to make a difference is so important.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I don't want this to sound like we're just downing on coaching companies, because we're not. And I think they're essential. Spoke to a head teacher on Monday, Sonia Gill, Heads Up, and she's an advocate of PE coaching companies coming in. And we actually work quite closely with a number of PE coaching companies as well. So it's not that we're trying to catch anybody out. We're just really passionate about schools having the best possible provision that they can. And equally, an option that a lot of schools go down here in Somerset is they have rather than use a coaching company, they'll get an apprentice in from a local institution. And again, I've seen that work really successfully. But again, like Marcus just mentioned, it really comes down to the person that you've got in as well. We've seen some amazing apprentices, ones that we've actually tried to see if they wanted to come on board with us from schools. But equally, then you do have the flip side of that also, where they might not be as passionate as you want them to be about the delivery of PE in the school. Okay. Here we go. So here's the guidance that I mentioned. It's a little bit blurry because I just took a picture of it. But this is on the UK coaching website. You can access it through AFPE, and it just reinforces what we were saying really about the qualifications side of things. I won't go into huge detail here, but as you can see, minimum age 18, and it's got level 2, so minimum of level 2 or above qualification. And it says in the activity being delivered there, which is a really difficult one to manage, and I don't think that's possible. So again, with us, it's experience across the curriculum, and if that experience is lacking, then we provide the CPD to our staff so that they feel comfortable delivering across the whole curriculum. And then there's just some stats there. 80% of schools use or deploy coaches. 60% of coaches are being deployed after school activities. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry. But like I said, the link for that, if you go on the AFP website or UK coaching website, you'll be able to see that and download that. And here's the guidance from on the government website with regards to the sports premium. Now, we don't know whether the sports premium is continuing. You may have heard Boris, I didn't actually hear it, but I know you did, Marcus, Boris Johnson's announcement earlier this evening around that there's going to be an announcement next week, I believe, with schools. So hopefully the sports premium will continue. Hear whispers that it will, but nothing's been confirmed as yet. So just to reinforce that guidance there. So no, it shouldn't be used for PPA, it shouldn't be used for swimming unless it's topping up to help children reach those requirements before the end of school. No capital expenditure. And then those 5 things there are suggestions on how that sports premium should be spent. And coaching companies can play a huge part in ticking all of these 5 things here. So engagement of all pupils in regular physical activity, not just PE lessons. Profile in PE and sport is raised across the school. Increased confidence knowledge, so sort of CPD lessons, upskilling teachers' PE knowledge so that they can deliver better lessons themselves. And increased participation in competitive sport, so festivals and attending competitions, etc., which I know is difficult for a lot of schools, but I know local authorities are really good at putting on festivals either at local schools to you, so that's a really good thing as well. In regards to the CPD element, my perfect scenario, I don't know whether Marcus would agree with this, but obviously as a coaching company, we want to go into schools and deliver, but I genuinely believe that there is a place for both. And we deliver into some schools where we deliver all of the PE, which I don't personally like. However, in some schools there's a need for it, but I do feel that is de-skilling those teachers so that if the sports premium does go, what sort of state does that leave that school's PE in? So my personal take on it is the perfect balance is to have a coaching company or a specialist come in to deliver 1 hour of PE a week to a class. So every class gets that 1 hour of high quality PE. And I do believe that the teachers should deliver the other hour as well. So that would be my take on it. I don't know if you agree with that, Marcus, or not.
No, I would agree. And I think the value of potentially support from in a CPD capacity, there are now a whole host of resources out there for teachers and for people in the teaching profession to deliver PE, but I just think sometimes that practical support actually defrags, a lot of the lesson plans that are available to teachers, and actually makes it a more of a visible option for them as well. And, with regard to lesson plans, myself, I could pick up someone's lesson plan that they've written, but it make no sense to me at all. But actually, if I'm shown and I'm walked through that, then it kind of simplifies that lesson plan. And for many teachers, many teachers are fantastic at delivering PE, but obviously those teachers that don't have so much experience, someone coming in can just kind of demystify that myth really around kind of the PE delivery and the very kind of complicated delivery area of it. I think, that support kind of can give those teachers confidence in simplifying things, getting children active, making sure that children have a smile on their face and passing that enthusiasm on and picking up that technical base as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on our website there, we've got some guidance specifically on those criteria. So if you do want more information on that criteria and our take on it, and like Mark said, defragging what those bullet points mean and some practical examples of how to hit those. Then that's on the website. And as I said, these slides will be emailed out to you later this week. So moving on, and this is just a bit of a passion thing of ours. Why is it important? And I do believe that now more than ever, it's going to be crucial and it's key that we do get children active. And that's not just through PE lessons and through coaching companies, but it's can we embed PE and school sport or physical activity during every day, every week of the school year. So it's not just those 2 hours of PE, but we are having learning breaks, brain breaks. We've got a really broad range of extracurricular opportunities, lunchtime clubs that the children can access. And it's really embedded into the school culture. And I think now, well, September, more than ever, it's going to be really important for those children that does become the case. And also the benefits for the school that perhaps go unheard of and are hidden benefits. So attention and focus in the classroom. There's loads of studies and research out there to say that brain breaks increase the focus and attention in the classroom, as well as regular physical activity. Attainment can improve, and we're big believers in building that school culture and community. So not just within the school, but I think that's key as well, that as I said, if teachers are delivering PE, then the importance of it is viewed highly by the children, whereas if teachers aren't delivering it, the children start to think, well, why isn't Mr. Smith delivering my PE? Why is a company coming in? So that's why I think it's really key that teachers deliver it, so that the importance of it is viewed not just by the children, but also by the teachers as well. And they are role models within those PE lessons. And then that ripples out into the community, into families, and everybody in that community, that surrounding community, families, grandparents, community, can be really proud of what the school is doing. And the impact then ripples out beyond your school. And you can be really proud of the sporting ethos that you've created at your school. And also, again, studies, research suggests that happier children, higher physical activity levels equal happier children and hopefully staff as well. And it can be a really good, fun place for the children to be, and they look forward to those learning breaks or PE lessons or extracurricular clubs. Everybody's got opportunities and everybody can be healthy and active. And as I said there, it's not just PE, it's building those physical activity breaks into your school week. Actually, I want to add to that, Mark, so sort of add that in there as a bit of a passion piece.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of building on that passion thing, you know, over the years, I think out of all of the schools we've worked with, the schools that have really bought into PE as a kind of whole school community, there's always a driver. That may well be a PE coordinator that's absolutely fantastic. It could well be a head teacher that really, really values PE. It could be a fantastic coach from a coaching company that's embedded in that school that really drives things forward, and they've got a massive enthusiasm. And I've seen it before now. It's a grandparent that is a massive table tennis fan that is hugely kind of involved in after school clubs and volunteering opportunities. But for me, every single school that we've worked with that is kind of nailing PE, there's always a driver. So I would kind of question all schools really to be able to identify that driver. There may well be one within the parent community. There may be a teacher that at the moment doesn't deliver any PE or doesn't deliver any after school clubs that would love to get involved. But for me, that driver has got to come from a passion, and it could be an individual or a group of individuals, a parent, an external coach that comes in, or a PE coordinator or a teacher. But somewhere there's got to be someone really championing PE, physical activity and well-being all of the time, really, on a year-round basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Mark said, it doesn't have to always be the PE lead. It needs to be a whole school approach, and also the use of sports leaders within the school. So the children, year 5, year 6, or even younger, if you haven't got those age groups, can be really utilised to become real role models at the school, and then the younger children will aspire to be those leaders in later years. So that's a really key thing, I think, that culture in the school is built. But going back to coaching companies, so solutions, and this is just basically looking at the problems and making sure this is your checklist, I guess. So check insurance and qualifications. This should be done by the coaching company. So coaching companies that are listening, what I would recommend is that when the coach or whoever's going into the school, that these things are provided on that, and they should be anyway, but on that coach's first day. So insurance qualification, obviously DBS checks as well. I should say quality assurance. Quality assurance measures are in place by the company. So observations and CPD take place. Again, like Marcus said, it's difficult for small companies to do this. But again, I think for schools and coaching companies to deliver the best possible service, everybody should always be trying to improve what they do, rather than somebody coming in, doing cricket in the summer, and then off they go, and you don't see them. Embed them into your school culture as well. And we encourage all of our staff to go into staff rooms, as I'm sure all coaching companies and coaches do, but that's a real must for us, that they are viewed by the staff as members of their team, but we want our staff to be open and conversational and friendly around the school, so that they almost go in as a new member of staff. Is cover insured, like we said earlier? So it's definitely a question worth asking your coaching provider. What happens if so-and-so's ill one day? What happens? And there will be scenarios where cover can't be provided. And there have been scenarios where we unfortunately haven't been able to. Either our coaching team has been really poorly, and same with teaching agencies, and there's just been nobody present to go in. However, Marcus and I obviously have the luxury of being directors of the company, but we are extra bodies to go in and deliver as well now. So we always provide cover. In the early days, perhaps there was the odd incident where we couldn't, but is cover insured is a key one. And continuity. Are you going to get the same coach every week? And I think it's kind of twofold, right, this one, because if as a school you just want 3 after-school clubs during the week, it's going to be really difficult for a coaching company to provide that. They might be able to provide it for the first half term, but then if that coach leaves them, it's a hard one to fill for cover. So from a recommendation from a school's perspective, as much as you can, try and help out those coaching providers with substantial hours so that they can get high quality coaches into you. And then that will enable that continuity of having the same person every week, which is key, especially if you're in a challenging area, catchment area, and those children really rely on that rapport with the adult, with the coach that's coming in, and they want to see the same face every week. That continuity, they know where the line is from a behaviour standpoint, and they know what the expectations are. So there's just a few solutions there, and on the next slide I'll go into what we do in Somerset.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, just to add to that as well, with regard to if you are a kind of a school listening tonight, it's definitely acceptable, and what you should be doing when a new coach comes into school, just check with that coaching company that they are in fact on a single central register that all of us we need to keep. So for example, we'll keep a single central register with all of our coaches on, and that will give us details of all of those things that we need to know, such as DBS checks when they were done, first aid qualifications, but also safeguarding qualifications, but also pre-employability checks as well. So you're asking them that they are on a single central register. If they can confirm that, they've obviously done all of those, references before employing as well. They've gone through all of those checks, and they'll be able to confirm for you that member of staff is on that register.
Yeah, great point. And then it just thought it'd be worth mentioning our promise to our schools here in Somerset. As I mentioned, cover perhaps previously, but now we can guarantee cover with Marcus and myself being available to cover if necessary. We observe our coaches twice a year, more if necessary. We do plan the visits, so our coaches know that we are coming. But if there is a need highlighted by either us or the school, we will do unannounced visits as well to see a real lesson and to see how they operate when they don't think anybody's there watching them. CPD, so we do this every half term. Obviously our staff sometimes are on holiday or have booked holiday, so they can't attend every single one, but we have something in place every half term. Whether that's gymnastics CPD or whether it's a behaviour management CPD led by Marcus and myself, performance management, whatever it might be, it's really important that happens regularly. Every half term might be excessive, but we do believe that it's massive for our team that they have that continuous training with us. And we get specialists in as well who obviously might deliver a better dance lesson than Marcus and myself could. So, although I do have, some moves, but not enough. Cover provided, as I mentioned, and we, again, go above and beyond, and we provide curriculum maps for our school. So in September, a very early stage of the school year, our coaches will provide a curriculum map for the entire year. So they'll map out the year, what's being delivered every half term, what's being delivered every term. And it's different for every school. Some schools will deliver CPD, so that the teachers will observe and then they'll deliver the second lesson, or they might deliver something different. So we might plan what we deliver and the teacher delivers, or we might just plan what we're going in and deliver. So it does vary from school to school, but we provide that map for the entire year. And it's not mapped out thoroughly in terms of lesson plans for the entire year. It's just an overview of what the year looks like. But then every half term, the coach will provide, every term the coach will provide what's happening for the half terms that follow. So that will be a little bit more in depth. You may have your 6 or 7 lessons from September through to October half term, and roughly, loosely, what's going to be delivered in those lessons. So lesson objectives, what will be delivered specifically. So if it's multi-skills or fundamental movements for foundation, what type of things are going to be doing, so that then when we provide cover, the cover coach, whether it's somebody on our team or Marcus and myself, they can pick that up and know exactly what they're delivering that lesson. So that's really essential for us, and it creates really real good continuity with our schools, and also that good relationship as well with them. And from September, again, this is something new that we're providing all of our schools. They will have access to our scheme of work, which we've been building for the last sort of 12 months, and that will be a comprehensive scheme of work, every subject, every area of the curriculum, every year group, so that our coaches can have access to that, as well as our coaches get access, but also our schools will get access, and the teachers, so that we've got that quality assurance from what our coaches are delivering, but then also the schools will benefit from that as well, to be able to access those schemes of work. I think that's it, unless I've missed something out, Marcus.
No, I don't think so. And just kind of going back to coaches being on full-time contracts or very much close to full-time contracts, we've mentioned it before. It's not easy to recruit. And to be honest, we're recruiting 12 months round. And there's that time element and there's that expense as well. But actually for us, it's probably the most important thing we do. Because if the coaches aren't right, then the quality of service will invariably be lower, and actually you won't get the right quality or quality of coach kind of on board. And we're very fortunate here in Somerset that we've had, we've never really lost a coach because they don't want to work for us anymore. They've gone on to look at different careers and taken kind of jobs within sports development, but we've kind of retained a really, really good coaching team. And I think things like contracts, pensions, annual leave is paramount, and CPD as well is paramount to keeping those members of staff. And it can be tricky to piece together, with regard to schools' needs and wants and desires, but actually making sure that you've got a comprehensive contract to offer to staff. But it's a year-round thing, but it's kind of our commitment, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the lessons themselves. So we talked about coaching companies and what to look for. And what to look for there. And I hope that's been helpful to not just the teachers in the room, but the coaching companies as well. Like I said, that's how we operate in Somerset. I don't know many companies that would have such extensive customer service, I guess, as we do, but it's what we pride ourselves on here in Somerset. So it's something that you can use as a bit of a guide. The lessons themselves, the first bullet point there links into being active. I think that, yes, we have schemes of work, and yes, we want the children to learn in the lessons. Of course we do. We want learning objectives, and we want the structure of the lessons to be fantastic. But I would argue that the most important aspect is for it to be fun. And yes, the behaviour is key, and it's hard to have the balance between having a fun lesson but also managing the behaviour. But we want it to be fun. We always ask our coaches to deliver fun, pacey lessons, well-planned lessons. And ultimately for us, our biggest goal is that those children love PE, love sport, love physical activity, so that when they finish primary school and they move on to secondary school, yes, they'll do their PE lessons, but our biggest hope is that they continue extracurricular clubs, they choose and they make healthy choices throughout their life, even beyond secondary school. And we want to reduce childhood obesity. We want to do all of those things and raise physical activity levels and create a healthier nation. That's our big vision. So we want fun lessons, but the lesson structure is also important as well. I'm not saying it's not. So learning objectives, success criteria. All of our coaches have whiteboards, so they'll write all of that up at the start of the lesson and they'll refer back to it. Just to make sure that the children are learning, they understand what's happening, it's differentiated, and they're delivering high quality PE lessons. But ultimately, when we're going in to observe, they could do all of that. It could be planned, they could have lesson objectives, they could have success criteria, they could have planned it really thoroughly. But if it's not pacey, if it's not fun, then the behaviour starts to fade anyway. So that, I think, combined with the lesson structure, making it fun and active and pacey is really key. So lessons, the types of lessons that we deliver into schools and PE provision. So we will go in and we will do CPD lessons. So teachers will come out and observe one of our members of the staff and use it for their own development. And we'll work really closely with the school. It might be that the teacher chooses what we deliver, and it might be a last minute thing in the summer. Or could you do a relay lesson? I'd love to see how you do a lesson based on the baton changeover. So we're really flexible, and yes, we plan lessons, but equally our team are really flexible. They understand that schools' needs may change very quickly, certainly around Christmas, etc., when the stage is up. So we're flexible. So we do those CPD lessons and help the teachers and upskill them, so that if we do leave, then hopefully that school will have a long-lasting legacy. We do still deliver PPA, even though it's not allowed on the sports premium. Obviously, you can use PPA pot to pay for it. Some schools will use sports premium to pay for PPA cover, as I'm sure they do in your area. So we do still deliver PPA. It doesn't fire us up, but we still deliver it, and we view it as a PE lesson and a high quality PE lesson. We do a lot of target group work. So less active children, who you probably would be able to identify now off the top of your head, maybe 10 children at your school who would really need physical activity boosters. So we do that during curriculum time, that they'll come out, almost like an intervention that you would do in maths and English. We also do the flip of that for gifted and talented children to further extend them. They might not be challenged enough in a PE lesson. So we do both sides of the end of the spectrum. We also do coordination group stuff, children that perhaps might struggle with their coordination, their fundamental movements, their catching, their rolling, their balance, etc., etc. So we might work with a group of children for a term, and then that group of children might change. We do extracurricular clubs. Again, they can be your typical sports clubs that vary from activities every half term. So it might be football for the first half term that changes to tag rugby, or conversely, again, we do those target group clubs, which can be a challenge after school because you haven't got that captive audience, and the children that you want there sometimes aren't the ones that are able to attend after school clubs. But we have done target group work, whether that's gifted and talented again, or whether that's coordination group work or less active. But those clubs tend to work really well, those less active ones, coordination group stuff, in lunch times where you have that captive audience and you can run a club when you know that those children are in school. We do early active clubs, so your old school breakfast clubs, but we call them early active clubs because it's a way to get children active before the school day starts, kind of like the Wake and Shake, but we do a variety of different things. Extracurricular I've mentioned, and lunchtime activity boosters. I've just put in there active as well. What we've designed into our new schemes of work are, especially sort of during your gymnastics and dance lessons, are little bursts, 2-minute bursts of physical activity. So it might be that they stop doing their gymnastics routine. Right, everybody, we're going to go into a minute of high knees, off you go. So we built that into our new lesson plans. Again, just to get the heart rate up. We're very aware that for some children, during the school day might be the only opportunity they get to raise their heart level and to burn off some calories. So yeah, physical activity, we have those bursts and we'll drop those in regularly during the lesson. It might be 1 minute, it might be 5 minutes, it might be that they have 5 1-minute slots during the whole lesson just to give them that little booster and get the heart rate up, which perhaps wouldn't happen in a gymnastics lesson. But we also do that in our games lessons as well, just to try and get them as active as we can. So that's it for that slide for me. I know Marcus is tapping away, so he might not have heard anything that I just said.
I'm typing away, so I'm sure what you've been saying is all very, very valid. So yeah, I'm busy on a question, Ben. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, so that's just a guide into the types of lessons and provision that we provide. We don't mind sharing that with you, coaching company or teachers. It's not groundbreaking stuff. It's just the type of thing that we deliver here. And then just briefly, as some of you probably attended our previous webinar on social distance PE, the slides are available on our website. The link is on our blog. So if you go onto our website, onto our blog, you'll be able to see those slides. But this is what we're delivering. So of our staff, majority are in schools at the moment delivering, which with the guidance, you could argue both sides of it really, but we're needed in our schools and we are delivering PE in different ways, depending on what the school wants. Every school is different. We've got schools here in Somerset that are only open to foundation year 1. So my daughter's school haven't got year 6s in, they're coming in next week. Equally, we work with a school who have got more year groups than was announced by the government last week. Every school's different. Every school's got a different take on it. The conversations that I've had with head teachers, certainly my daughter's school head teacher, had a long conversation with her on Monday, and they're doing an amazing job, and every school is at the moment, especially with the loose guidance that everybody's been given. And she just said to me, how am I meant to do PE and how am I meant to clean all the equipment? And what she actually came up with herself is they've got, so on the bubble kit there, number 2 group bubble kit, they've got bags of equipment that are kept in a central place, and after every lesson they're dropped back in there, but then they won't be used for 48 hours. So once they've been in there for 48 hours, they move into another space so that they can be used, which I guess is in line with how long the virus can live on a surface, I believe. But anyway, this is our take on it. So we've gone in and delivered PE, and most of our schools are having PE delivered with no equipment at all. So athletics, things like that are perfect for that, or sort of little games that they can do. What we've done with quite a few schools actually is suggested that there is a bubble kit. So every bubble has their own kit allocation. One of our schools has a trolley for each bubble that gets wheeled out wherever they're doing PE, and that equipment's used by that bubble. And some of our schools have actually taken it to the next level, and the kit is rotating around groups. Every group has got their kit, as mentioned in number 2 there, but then after 2-3 weeks they'll swap over. So it might be that bubble 1 and 2 are doing rounders or cricket. Maybe bubble 1's doing cricket, bubble 2's doing rounders, however what I said now. And then after that 2-3 week period, they're going to swap. So the equipment will be cleaned and then they'll swap over. So they might have cricket, rounders, athletics, no equipment. They might even be doing some, I don't know, kick rounders game or something like that. They've got bubbles with equipment and they're going to rotate every 2 weeks so that everybody gets to do something different after a couple of weeks, just to keep it interesting for the children. So that's that. I won't go into loads of detail because I'm sure there'll be loads of questions on this and we could go on all night about this. But again, there's more information on this, and the slides are on the website, and it might be that we do another webinar on this before September, dependent on what things look like as we approach next academic year. But I'll leave that there for the moment. Obviously, fire any questions in that you have, and we'll try our best to answer them. And then how we can help. So, as I said, our vision is to create more active schools, and we're more than happy to talk further about anything that we've spoken about tonight. We haven't got the capacity to deliver outside of Somerset from a coaching standpoint. We don't have franchises. We don't like franchises, quite frankly. But we're happy to talk. We're happy to answer any questions. So if you did want to book anything in with us, then please do so. And we're happy to share our knowledge further if you feel like you need a chat. And then without planning to, as I mentioned, the Inspired Playground, we created that 3 years ago. And we've actually created a really good socially distanced product for break and lunch times. Of the schools that we deliver into in Somerset, of the 30 schools, I think 29 of them have an inspired playground, and all of our coaches that deliver into those schools are using them on a daily basis, the ones that are in there, because there's 5 stations. Each station's got 6 elements to it. So if you've got a bubble of 15, you don't even need to use all the stations, but you can deliver socially distanced, maybe not PE, but physical activity, really straightforward. And I'll show you some pictures of what that looks like in a second, but if that is of interest, again, please let us know. We can speak to you in more detail about that. We were back installing playgrounds May has term after the lockdown, so we're really pleased that we're able to help schools with that again. Just briefly about the product. So sports leaders are fully trained by us, typically year 5 or year 6, although we have worked with year 2 leaders who are fantastic as well. And they run the sessions. Obviously that's not possible at the moment with socially distanced PE, but for in normality, the sports leaders run the session. It doesn't take up any teacher time, which is obviously a big issue. Leaders run it, it's fully functional, they record the data, you get active minutes recorded for the children that are taking part, and it runs itself essentially. Obviously not at the moment, the teachers would be delivering the lessons on the markings, but perfect for social distance, break and lunchtime, especially when more children are in September. At the moment, relatively straightforward, break and lunchtime. I say that, I've not seen every school in action at break and lunchtime, but I know my daughter's school, they've got their zones for break and lunchtime, but they've probably got 100 kids in at the moment. When that goes up to 450, whatever it is, whenever that happens, if social distancing is still a thing, then the playground's going to be used a lot, I'm sure. Inspired 5, and I'll show you a link to this in a second, that's £99 at the moment, and that will see you through to the end of next academic year, 2021. And I'll show you that platform in a second, and also our intentions of what we're going to build onto that. So we're looking for pioneer schools really that want to be early adopters of Inspired 5, and I'll tell you what we're going to build onto that platform in a second. We've also got a sport course online, probably not the best time to be running leadership stuff at the moment, but if you wanted to train up some sports leaders, there is a guide on our website, a free guide. It's a video guide, and it will help you to start the journey with your sports leaders. As I said, we're happy to speak to anybody about this. Our phone numbers are there. I'll email out the slides. You can book a call via our website as well. And I'll start with the web application quickly. So this is, can I get onto our own website? That is because I am tethering through my phone. Internet's not great down here in Somerset. So this is the web application, and this is where the leaders will record those active minutes for the children. So for the playground project, they will create sessions, they will record the active minutes, and then that all gets logged. We provide reports every term to the school so they can see who's been active, who hasn't been active, whether it's boys less active, girls less active, Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, People Premium, whatever it might be. We've also got on here now Inspired 5, as you can see, which pops up here automatically, but you can go into that in more depth here. And they're basically 5-minute videos for those learning breaks. One of our schools, our team that are in there at the moment actually have been given a laptop to use by the school so that they can use these videos at the moment for socially distanced physical activity in the classroom, just to break the day up a little bit. So yeah, as I said, we've got 5-minute videos of all these things, and we're consistently going to build onto this, build more videos on there. We're going to put some active maths videos on there, and active English and things like that as well, just to branch out and give our customers more value in Inspired 5. So this at the moment, this entire thing is £99 until the end of next academic year. And what Marcus and I are going to build onto this, and there's actually a poll at the end of this webinar, which would be amazing if you could fill it out, because we want to know what schools want on this platform. The schemes of work that I mentioned will be on here. So there'll be a tab up here with schemes of work, which will be able to be accessed by teachers. Also our staff as well, they'll be able to access through this. They've all got access to the web application. But we're also looking at things like a parent area. So again, it won't be any additional cost. It will just be a school that buys the license for the year, but parents would get access, and they get access to Inspire 5. We're also thinking about putting revision guides and things like that on there to help the children when in the build up to SATs and maybe year 2, some help for those guys as well going into their SATs. We're also going to put some digital online CPD courses on here. But the capacity of this portal is endless, really. So we want to know what schools want on this platform. What would benefit you as a school? What would you love to see on there? What would you think, oh, this would make my life so much easier from a PE standpoint? And also all the resources for Inspired Playgrounds will be on here as well. So that the leaders have loads of ideas of what they can deliver on the playground. So that's Inspired 5. Let's go back to this. And then just to show you very briefly, it's only a 16-second video, what Inspired Playground, sorry, hay fever, what an Inspired Playground looks like. So there's lots of videos on here about us and what we do, and this one's probably just a quick 16-second video just to show you some examples of how it's hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour as to what that is. This is our website, as I mentioned. On here, you've got the blog with the socially distanced slides here. You've got all of the stuff that we do, free sport course, Inspire 5, Inspired Playgrounds. We normally do events, physical events at schools as well. But going back to this, so Inspired Playgrounds, that's kind of just a picture of what it looks like. So you can see there, this was our very first parent and child workout that we did at our pilot school actually 3 years ago. This was May half term 2017, I think. And you can see there, without even trying, you've got a pretty socially distanced physical activity session that's going on. Marcus's 2 kids there in the foreground. And that's what it looks like from a bird's eye point of view. The markings have changed slightly since then. This was 3 years ago. And that's just an example of some of the resources that we've put together. And that's just a resource for one of the stations. So that's Inspired Playgrounds. And that is it. I'm going to try and work out how to share the poll, but really appreciate if you could fill this out. I'm going to share that now and then answer questions. Hopefully you can all see that poll. I forgot to share it last time, the first time I ever did a poll. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind filling that out, that'd be fantastic. And then, do we have any questions, Marcus? Any burning questions?
I've answered several. One question was around kind of delivering PE within kind of confined spaces, particularly team games. And you know, my answer to that was, you know, it can be tricky to deliver around the invasion game curriculum when you are confined to maybe a small hall. One suggestion around delivery was, I've previously delivered a footworks program, so a program of activity using four cones to mark out 1 meter squares, and within that cone, within that area, it can be very, very flexible in the fact that it could be a hockey stick and a ball, it could be a football, it could be a basketball, it could in fact be like kind of a tennis racket and a tennis ball. But there's lots and lots of fundamental movement activities all to do with those sports that can be done within those 1 meter squares. You know, for example, you know, if it was football, you know, dribbling activities using the cones as defenders, figure of 8, travels with a ball. It can be used as a juggling square as well. And then you can kind of move that on by teaming 2 1 meter squares up. So children are facing each other. So they're trying different tricks and turns and mirror me activities. Even so much so than putting kind of 2 children within a 1 meter square. One's got the ball, one's the defender, putting pressure on the child with the ball, and all of a sudden, you know, that kind of technique of dribbling becomes kind of a skill-based activity as well. So that was one suggestion around that. And obviously, the use of channels within a small hall can be helpful when you're kind of trying to create things like 2v1s and those kind of attacking, defending principles of invasion games as well.
Nailed it. See people that are filling out the poll there. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. It's really, really kind of you. Just, I don't know if you can all see that actually. Can you see that, Marcus, the results?
I can. I can't see the results. I can see the poll
I can
is
see the
up.
results.
Okay. You're
You can vote on it yourself, Marcus.
Okay.
Apparently. Online CPD at the moment is popular, which is really interesting. Club Finder. So you can explain what that is. Club Finder is, I guess most of you understand what that means, but just in case you're not sure, if for us in Somerset, I was to type in my postcode, that will come up with a list of clubs in my area, and I can filter that with different sports. So if it was football, I'd get a list of however many clubs there are here, trampolining, where that is, karate, martial arts, whatever it might be, just to help, again, like I said, that sporting ethos, that community building, to help signpost children and parents to different clubs in the area. Okay, interested in playground solution. Okay, quite a few, brilliant. If, again, what I will do is I will email out on Friday the slides, and I will put a link in that email with a book a call. So if you'd like to book a call with us, all you have to do is click on that link, and then it will come up with some options, some time options where you can speak to us about either the playground stuff, or I also saw that quite a few of you would like a strategy call about PE provision as well. So that's good to know. Most of you, almost all of you, are happy with the coaching company you use, which is fantastic. That's great news. Awesome. I will let it run a bit longer. 8 out of 17 have filled it out. So yeah, thank you for filling that out. I'll give it another minute. Are there any other questions, or was that it, Marcus?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I have kind of mentioned one or two. We're always available via a phone call if anything pops up. So for example, I spent kind of several hours on the phone last week after the social distancing webinar, just going through different ideas with regards to kind of safe practices and PE and what it can look like. So if anyone does want that follow-up call, like you've mentioned, we're more than happy to. And I don't think we've got all the answers. And actually, some of the fantastic coaches that are already working in your school or more localized coaching companies, they'll also have lots of good answers and good suggestions and offers of support as well. So, feel free to really pick their brains. If any teachers that deliver are not sure on how to deliver with regard to social distance PE or any other queries, those coaching companies will often have a resource of knowledge between their staff teams, which will help you.
Ashley, I don't know if you saw this question, Mark. So Ashley, do you provide any incentives for schools to retain your services year after year? Is that from a coaching standpoint, or is that from a school perspective on, like, are you interested in inspired playgrounds and what incentives there are? I assume it's from a coaching perspective. If it is from I'll answer it from a coaching perspective. No, we don't. From a coach perspective, thank you, Ashley. No, we don't. We don't offer any incentives. We don't. I know some schools will try and some coaching companies will try and tie schools up on a 2-year contract. We don't do that. I think the contracts, any contract that is in place, if a school wasn't happy with what's being provided, then ultimately they can give you a half-term or a term's notice and get rid of you, unless it was for gross misconduct. So we obviously, our schools are on contracts. We do like rolling contracts that will roll into the next year, but there's no incentive for them to stay with us other than our amazing PE provision, I suppose, that we back ourselves and we back our coaches to deliver a really good service to them. And I think with all the things that we've mentioned that we do here in Somerset with the CPD, the lesson observations, etc., with schools knowing that they get a really good service and product, that is their incentive, I guess, if that answers your question in a roundabout way. I know that there are a few coaching companies on this evening, and this is a bit of a random one that's just popped into my head, but we have recently partnered with 5 companies, coaching companies around the country, on the Inspired Schools product, and we did have a limit of 5 for the summer, but if there is an interest in working with us on the Inspired Playground products, Inspired 5, etc., then again, please feel free to book a call. We don't have any capacity at the moment. We've kind of reached that for partners for September, but there will be some openings next academic year. But it'd be good to speak to anybody that may have an interest, has a good reach in your area, a good number of schools that you work in, but that's not essential. We're just looking for the right partners who deliver a really high quality service, and judging by the feedback and the poll that's been filled out, 9 out of the 10 people that have filled it out are happy with the coaching company you use. So hopefully it speaks volumes that as a coaching company you're on this call because you want to improve what you do potentially. So give us a call or drop us an email if that's something you might be interested in partnering with us, and gaining the access, almost like a license to Inspired Playgrounds. There's no fee that we take for that. We just want really good companies working with us to get more children and more schools active. That's our goal. That's our vision. Okay, that's it for me. I'm going to close this poll down now. And other than that, thank you so much for joining us. And we will host another one probably in 2 or 3 weeks. Hopefully there'll be a sports premium announcement by then. And we may do something on sports premium and ways to spend it and good ways to use that money if it does again repeat itself into next year. But other than that, take care, everybody, and stay safe. Okay, I'm going to sign out.